last video. Hello, welcome back. It's been like what, probably 4 hours since I posted whatever video came out before this. But yes, so this is our last Canada Reads video, and I'm going to be talking about, I think, my favorite book of the entire competition. I feel so bad that I've been so delayed in getting to it. So the book is Butter, Honey, Pig Bread, which is written by Francesca Iukwueze. I believe I'm pronouncing that right, and for once in my life I actually looked up the characters' names, so if I am saying them wrong, yell at me, but I listened to her reading the book a couple times so that I could try and get the speech and be able to say the names to you properly, because that matters to me. I think it's part of being a good person is actually taking the time to learn how to say somebody's name. This book is being defended by Roger Muking, who is a chef, which is very fitting for the story. So the premise of this story is Butter, Honey, Pig Bread is a novel about twin sisters, Kanaide and Taye, and their mother, Cambrianachi. Cambrianachi believes she was a spirit who was supposed to die as a small child. By staying alive, she is cursing her family, a fear that appears to come through when Kanaide experiences something that tears the family apart and divides the twins for years. When the three women connect years later, they must confront their past and find forgiveness. I don't think I've put trigger warnings on any of the other books because there wasn't anything that like leapt out at me, but I do want to give a trigger warning for this book that there are conversations about rape, specifically rape as a child and dealing with the trauma and outcomes of that. Another content warning is for homophobic language and drug use, as well as drinking, and there is also a suicide attempt in the book that is done by a drug overdose. So that's something that you're not comfortable with. That is also dealt with in the novel. I think miscarriages also get discussed in the book, and then there is death of children, and there is also conversations about murder. So if those are things that you are uncomfortable with, be aware that those are themes that come up in the book. As always, if you want to drop me a message, I can be like more specific about where those things come up. So just look after yourself while you're reading. Please take care of yourselves. So the plot of this book. So this book is told from 3 different perspectives, from Cambrianachi's perspective, and then from the twin sisters Kanaide and Taye. And because of that, we kind of get different windows into their lives. It kind of jumps around a bit, so it goes back and forth between the modern day, when they have all kind of reunited in Nigeria for the first time in quite a long time, and even though they are twin sisters, Kanaide and Taye haven't really been talking to each other as a result of this trauma that they've been carrying with them from their past, and they're trying to kind of reunite and reconcile and deal with the pain and the trauma that is inside of themselves. And their mother is kind of struggling with some sort of, it's not really explained whether it's like dementia or some sort of mental issues that she kind of seems to be slipping away from them, but of course that's framed in this idea that she is a spirit who's supposed to die as a small child, and as a result she keeps feeling this force kind of like pulling her back and into the spirit world and away from her family. Yes, so the story very much follows their 3 different experiences and then weaves them together over time to help you understand the perspectives and the narratives and emotions that are all going on within these 3 women. Characters. So, obviously, I think I'm just going to go through the main 3. I'm going to touch on some of the little side characters that I am in love with, and then we will dive into things that I like and didn't like. So, Cambrianachi is their mother, and she believes that she was the spirit who was supposed to die as a small child. So her mother had a lot of miscarriages and children who passed away, and I can't quite remember the word that they use in the book, but when I did some research, it's a particular word that is used in their culture to describe the spirit of children who die at a young age, to kind of as a way of kind of explaining or understanding the unexplainable, as a lot of spirituality and cultural histories tend to do. As a result, she constantly feels this pull between these 2 different worlds, and she hears these kind of voices in her head that are the voices of the spirit trying to pull her back. In that way, she's always a little bit more connected to death, and she always feels traumas and pain a little bit heavier because she feels that she has some sort of control, and she feels very guilty for what happens. And as the trauma comes out about what the girls went through as children, this is something that carries more weight in the book because it dives into her feeling that she failed them as a mother when she was meant to be there, meant to protect them, and then she feels like she wasn't able to do that. Whether that's because of that pull or some other failing, that's something that could be left up to the reader to decide. Kanaide, eventually, when she grew up, she went to Canada to go to school, and as a result, she meets her husband there, Farouk, I believe his name is, and then they get married and they have come back to Nigeria, and this is the first time that her family is meeting her husband. She is a very unique character in a lot of ways, but I think the biggest thing about her is that she is trying to reconcile the anger that she carries inside of herself, and as a result of her trauma, some feelings of, I guess, low self-worth or guilt or blaming of herself that she's dealt with for a really long time. She's always kind of felt this anger and resentment towards her sister because of it, and she's trying to find a way to get to the other side of that. And then there's Taye, who is her twin sister, and she ends up going to school in the UK and then also in Canada, but she's in Halifax while her sister is in Montreal. And one of the things is that Taye has written all of these letters to her sister over time. An ex of hers ends up sending all her letters to her sister, so then her sister is kind of going through all these different things that Taye wanted to say to her throughout time, but wasn't able to because they weren't talking. Taye is a lesbian, and as a result, a lot of her story has to do with her trying to reconcile her identity, but also her relationship with love and sex, which is something that the book does a really good job of exploring. For her, she uses sex a lot as an escape and a way to kind of silence everything that's going on in her head, and in some ways that ends up destroying some of the relationships that she has. She almost becomes addictive to these kind of destructive tendencies that are tearing her life apart because she feels that she's sort of earned it in some way, or that she's not really worthy of happiness, and part of her story is learning to keep the people close to her that love her and that care for her, and to not always push those people away. A couple other characters that I really want to touch on super quick, and then I'll probably get into them more in the things that I like. Timmy, who ends up being Taye's one of her best friends. I just love him. I love their relationship. When he ends up leaving for a portion of the novel, I was really worried that he wasn't going to come back, and I was ready to riot, but luckily they addressed that. He does show back up, so that's great. Bobby, who is also another one of Taye's friends, and one of the things that I really love about him is how easily he embraces Taye's sexuality. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler, but he tries to come on to her, and she's like, yeah, I'm gay, and then he's like, oh, sorry. Thanks for sharing that with me. And then she's like, but do you just still want to, like, you know, have a platonic sleepover? And he's like, you know what, sure. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the platonic intimacy between them and the way that their friendship is addressed in that manner. The other character that is so dear to my heart is Wolfie, and Wolfie is, I guess I would say, is Kanaide's first, like, serious relationship while she's in Canada. And the care that he has for her, how gentle he is with her, and the way that he helps her get through so much of those feelings of self-loathing, and that he just wants to be there for her in whatever capacity that is possible. There's this beautiful moment where Kanaide kind of talks about the fact that she'll always kind of love Wolfie and always think about him, and I have someone in my life who's kind of a similar way, even though it's a much more complex situation, but I just related to that feeling of coming across a person that's such a kindred soul that maybe you're not meant to be with forever, but knowing that having loved them and had them in your life, they have shaped your story. So I've already kind of talked about a lot of what I liked, because a lot of what I liked is those side characters. Oh my god, they were so well written and so beautiful that every time one of them came up, they just ended up worming their way into my heart. But ultimately, what I do want to talk about what I loved about this story is this is a story about love. At the end of the day, that is what it's about, and it's not just a story about romantic love, which as someone who is asexual and on the aromantic spectrum is so refreshing to read about. The platonic relationships, the friendships, the family connections, the sibling connections, the maternal and paternal relationships, everything about it is just how do we love other people and how do we love ourselves, and how does the type of love that we put out into the world and the type of love we give to others impact our life and our well-being. And that's what the story's about. It's about learning to reconcile the parts of yourself that you don't like, the trauma that you've been through, and learn how to heal that so that you can have connections with people. It's a story about community and what having people in your life who care about you can do. Really, it's a story about like the power of love and the fact that whether it's a really good friend, whether it's a romantic partner, whether it's, you know, your sibling, having someone in your life who can support you and can be that like extra voice that you need, that sounding board, that person who's always going to believe in you, can change everything for you. And I love that about this story. It's so beautiful. Please read it. Things I didn't like about this story. Was there anything I didn't like about this story? Good question. Honestly, I don't know if I can think of anything off the top of my head that I didn't like about this story, which I think is a really good thing. Like, even one of the things that this story does well that a lot of stories don't is that jump between different perspectives. I find a lot of times I tend to get lost in that narrative, but nope, it was pretty easy to follow, even being in Nigeria, and I've never been to any country in Africa. I don't know much about Nigeria or the culture. They made it in a way that was so easy to understand. There was a little bit of Googling that I had to do, but I think that it's totally the responsibility of the reader to be willing to do some of that research for the book, so I'm gonna go ahead and say that there wasn't anything glaring that I didn't like about this book. I can't think of like anything super nitpicky. I wish they included all the recipes to the food at the end because it made me hungry. That's what I didn't like about the book. The food was described in such a delicious way, because Ty is a cook, that I was just starving 24/7. That's what I didn't like about the book. Writing. This story is, it's beautifully written. The way that those feelings of longing for someone who you've kind of lost connection with in your life, those feelings of wanting someone to be more than what they are, those feelings of frustration and doubt within yourselves, that feeling of knowing you're doing something wrong, but you're gonna keep doing it anyways. The way that the author writes all of these is so beautiful. One of the lines that I wrote down that I really love is, "Her love is just too heavy, that's all." And that just really stuck with me. Again, going back to this theme of love and the idea that there are some people that you want to have in your life, but you can't carry that weight inside of you. That is the credit of the story, is the writing, is how beautiful and how easy it is to fall into the story and to fall in love with these characters. I can't give her enough credit. This is a debut novel and it's incredible. I can't wait to see what she's going to write next. How well it transports us. Amazing. I was sucked into the story. I was just reading page after page after page, so I was very easily drawn into the world. Nigeria and the way that she wrote that, and France and the different areas of Canada that everyone was, it was very easy to feel the culture and the connection to that place and to understand what everything looked like, how the worlds worked there, how they were able to navigate those different environments. So that was done in a way that it made you feel very grounded in the story and very grounded in the moment, and you weren't like, wait, what's happening right now? And I think because the characters were so easy to connect to, you just become so invested in their life that you completely forget what else is going on, and I think that's amazing. That's what great writing does. So yes, if you couldn't tell, this is very clearly my favorite book. This is the book that I have picked that I really hope that it's going to win, but of course we will see how things play out this week. This was my longest video, and you can tell that the book I liked the least is my shortest video, so no surprises there. But yes, I've done it. I finally covered all the Canada Reads books. Again, I apologize about the delay, and thank you so much for watching all of these videos. I hope you really enjoyed this series as much as I enjoyed making it. Please leave me a comment down below if you've read this book or any of the other Canada Reads books and you want to share your thoughts. I really love talking books with people and getting to hear from you guys. If there's anything else that you would like to see me put out on this channel, any other content, book reviews, things like that, please let me know. Otherwise, I guess we'll see how Canada Reads goes, and I will see you all on Wednesday for another episode of Webcomic Wednesday. Thanks again for watching.